I'm Layne. Welcome to Onboarding the Ruby Way. So a couple of slides to get my shaky, nervous voice out of the way. This is my first time in Taiwan. It's been really amazing. Basically, what I've done the past week is hike and eat and go shrimp fishing, which was amazing. Look at this shrimp, it's enormous. Not pictured was 1 minute later when it pinched me right after I took this photo. Anyways, thank you for the wonderful time. America has a lot to learn from Taiwan's hospitality. So let me introduce myself. My name is Layne McNish, and I'm a software engineer and fellow Rubyist living in Oakland, California. I'm a bit late to the software game. Before I was an engineer, I worked in many industries, such as publicity, chef, technical support, veterinary technician, professional cellist, and everything in between. Through these experiences, I have seen many approaches to onboarding and their varying levels of success. Now I work for Omada Health. We're a digital health company focused on helping and enabling people to live free of chronic illness. If you're interested in sustainable engineering practices, pair programming, test-driven development, weekly tech talks, monthly hack days, mentoring, volunteering, and constant collaboration, come talk to me afterwards. So what am I talking about? I want to extend Minneswan to your onboarding process and your team culture as a whole. Maths is nice, and so our onboarding process is nice. Sorry, Maths. By the end of this talk, I would like you to examine your current process with fresh eyes and ask yourself, what can we do to make this nicer? I want your new engineers to walk away from their first day feeling useful, productive, and confident in their choice to work for your team. So story time. On my first day of a job, not the job I'm at now, they handed me my shiny new computer, put me in a room and said, okay, get your development environment set up and get the project set up, and we'll check back with you in a few hours. After they left, the panic quickly set in. So I frantically Googled all the errors I was getting during the setup process, and at least once I Googled how to set up a computer and also where to look for a new job. By the end of the day, I did get everything set up for the most part, except for Elasticsearch, which took me a further 3 weeks to get set up. I left work feeling dumb, defeated, and questioning my decision to work there. That's not a very nice feeling to have. So what's the current common process like? So it's your first day, let's get you set up. You clone the project, start following the installation instructions. Okay, so far so good. Oh, error, okay. So you Google it. Trusty old Google or Stack Overflow should save the day. And great, you got it working again, so let's move on. You go back to your instructions, keep going. Oh, error again. Uh-oh. So you Google it. Oh, that didn't work. You ask your teammates. Okay. Then you ask again and they tell you the magic words. It works on my machine. Really? Just the worst. So you pray to the Google gods and do some deep Google searching, and you fix it. You found a blog post on the 20th page of search results that has a comment that mentions a similar project, a similar problem that leads you to a solution. Thank God. So you're all set up, hopefully. So let's run the tests. You followed all the instructions, so this should be pretty easy. Oh. Whoops, wonder why that failed. So you start going down the debugging rabbit hole. Oh, no, still not working. So you ask your lovely teammates and they tell you, oh, we forgot, you're supposed to have the full version of Xcode and Python installed in order to run the tests. You're like, oh, great, thanks for letting me know. So you fix it again, and success. You got everything working. So you make your very first commit on your new project by updating the README with all the things that were missing or wrong or misleading, and then you leave your first day feeling unproductive and wondering if you've made a huge mistake. That didn't seem like a very nice way to introduce you to your new company. So how can we make it better? Let's talk about some automation options. Being able to go from nothing to having green tests in just one or a couple of steps would be a dream come true. However, this can cause its own set of headaches, so feel free to implement changes just one at a time. So setting up your dev environment, how should you have new teammates set up their development machines? Okay, so I know I said it's automation, but I just want to state that there really isn't anything wrong with following a README or a wiki if you keep it up to date. All their information is in one place and not spread between a wiki and 3 READMEs and a Google Doc living on somebody's computer and the gist that somebody has in their, in the middle of nowhere. And you want to be able to go from having nothing to having a green test suite by the end of the instructions. If you want an example of a great setup guide, check out Railsbridge's Install Fest guide. It works for Mac, Windows, Linux, and it provides step-by-step instructions along with some tips and tricks for errors and debugging. So let's start with some automating. You can easily create a batch setup script to get most, if not all, of your projects set up within a single step, within just a couple of hours. We did this on a recent hack day. Within one day, we could get most of our projects set up within just a few minutes through a bash script. It can be really tempting to hack things together, but take the time to write some reusable functions to make it easier to maintain and update in the long run. And then make your setup script the one-stop shop for setting up new computers and updating your current ones. You should be able to run it again and again without any ill effects. If you're using the same script for both installing and updating, your engineers are more likely to use it and keep it up to date. Take stock of all your dependencies, and your dependencies, and your dependencies. Don't leave anything out. This is also a great opportunity to go through all of your tools and get rid of some extraneous things that you don't really need to use anymore. It's easy to allow your teammates to make the customizations that they need to be productive. Either add the ability to add their own customization script at the end of your setup script, or add the ability to ask them what customizations they want on the fly and execute them as you go. If your whole team is using a certain version of an application, make sure that you add it to the script to use that same version. Not having the same version of GPG caused one of our new developers to have a perpetually hanging test due to a different security screen. This is a no-brainer, but add logging to aid in debugging and to let them know at what point in the process they're at. And if you want some ideas on how to set up your own bash script, GitHub has a blog post and repo about their script structure to get their project set up. And then Thoughtbot has a really great laptop setup script that I used when creating the one that we use at my company. Another setup option is using Vagrant or Docker or whatever virtual box you want to use. So imagine a world where getting started is as easy as just saying Vagrant up. That'd be pretty sweet. Vagrant has many benefits, such as you can get Vagrant in a VirtualBox installed and set up in just a couple of hours or less. You'll get to develop in an environment that should match production. This can help give you the confidence if something works locally, it'll work on production as well. And it can be really helpful to have everyone on the team using the exact same tools and versions. It can be a really big pain to debug on someone else's computer to find out the problem is that one of you has a slightly different version than the other. That all sounds really good, but Vagrant is not without its shortcomings. Instead of it works on my machine, you'll get it works on my Vagrant instance. If anyone tells you that this will fix that, they're lying. Configuring your project to use Vagrant comes with a high upfront cost in time and effort. Configuring it can be really confusing and tricky. And if you're not on friendly terms with your wonderful DevOps team, you may be in for a world of hurt. I'm going to steal a quote from Chad Ostrowski. Even if you figure out how to link your enormous source code directory with NFS instead of whatever default, you're still running your app inside a resource-starved VM. Oh, your terminal will tell you, just turn up the RAM on that thing. Just turn up the CPUs. But you know what's always going to have more RAM and CPUs available than any VM that lives out its miserable life trapped in your host machine? Do you? Your host machine. So use it. For me personally, the benefits did not outweigh the hassle and annoyances that Vagrant caused me. But it could totally just be my personal setup. You could have a totally different experience than me, so take this with a grain of salt. Evaluate if this is a good option for your team. So once you have your new teammates set up, what are some other things that you can make that you can do to make the transition easier. You can make some project-specific rake tasks which are a nice addition to your setup process, but not necessarily a replacement. Since they're great because you're a Rubyist, not a bashist or a basher, whatever that would be. So use what you know. They can offer a quick way to get something set up between projects that have similar dependencies. That way, once you've gone through the installation process for one, you can just run rake tasks between the different ones and have things bootstrapped and set up quickly. But they're not very good at setting up dependencies. They'll work best if you already have a base environment set up, and so you can use them as convenience tools to set up and update your current projects. They also aren't very flexible when it comes to user customization, and I can't be the only one who forgets how to cuddle my commands and arguments when providing options to a task. One example of something you could use with it, a rake task for, is making your DB setup into a singular rake task to get started with. Combining all the things you need to set up your database to get going in development or test mode can make your work life a lot easier. One of the things I've seen work well is to create a trimmed subset of your production database, excluding or truncating tables you don't need to have everything working. This can cut down on your setup time significantly and makes the pain of worrying about migration conflicts and data migration strategies a thing of the past. Shared dot files. They allow new team members to learn their new team's version of best practices without being called out when they make a mistake. You can create hooks for checking styling, running linters, check for the format of your commit messages, all before your new team member pushes, allowing them to fix things before someone else notices and embarrasses them by saying something about it. It really stinks to have to be called out for an incorrectly styled commit message by one of your teammates when you could have just skipped over that altogether. Developers are lazy and they're very smart. If they've come up with some neat shortcuts to make things easier for themselves, share it across your team so that everyone can benefit. Shared dot files can provide consistency between the development environments across your team. This can make onboarding, debugging, and working together a lot easier, which also makes pairing easier. I'm not saying that you should always pair a program, but it is pretty fun, so you should try it. And one downside is that I'm not sure if you've noticed, but developers can have a lot of opinions, and they will defend those opinions to their dying day. So it can be difficult to get everyone to agree on the best practices or rules to implement, especially as your team gets bigger. And then, do you have a long list of helpful aliases and commands? Make sure to provide a help option to remind newbies of their various options. And remember, you don't have to automate everything. We're people, not machines. So let's talk about some human-friendly things you can do to make your onboarding process nicer. Tell them exactly what you expect of them in the next day, week, 3 months, and then explain to them what you plan to do to help get them there. Don't just pair them with your most senior team members. Your interns might be the folks with the most recent knowledge on how to get things set up, might have a list of the top 10 things that stumped them when they first got started, or might be able to give them some recommendations for the best burrito place to check out, and they'll be happy to share. If your office is bigger than one room, make them a map. Don't make them ask where the bathroom is. Make a list of all the tools and services you use and how to access them. New teammates will never know to ask for access to tools that they don't even know that you use. Build in time for them to ask questions, but understand that it may take them a while before they learn the words they'll need to ask the questions that they really want. Pair them up with a buddy outside their team to go get coffee or chat with. This is a great way to help them build connections to your company as a whole, rather than just being isolated on your team. At the beginning, give them a few quick wins. This will work best if you let them show off some of the skills that you hired them for. So don't give them busy work, let them solve real problems. So when you go back to your own companies, ask yourself, what can you do to make your own onboarding process nicer? How can you instill that niceness in your culture? And what can you or should you automate to make it nicer for your team? Thanks. anybody have any questions or want to share an onboarding horror story? Yep.
Thank you for your talk. The story in the beginning is very true. I think it happened for a lot of us. And I have a question: is one of the problems I face usually in a new structure is how to find the information in the company. Because I will ask someone and you told me you don't know, I should ask someone else. And then if you look at the public office, they always tell you to go to another office to get the information. And do you have something about it?
Yeah. Wikis are really nice for being able to compile stuff. So you don't have to like push to a README all the time, which is really helpful. But only if it's like searchable and people are updating it frequently. Having like FAQs, frequently asked questions, as they come to mind, can be really helpful. And then when people make edits, being able to have like who did it can be nice, because then you can see, oh, so-and-so wrote this post about this thing. They might be a good person to ask, or they might have information as to who else might know. It is a tricky problem, especially as companies grow bigger and people change teams or quit or move. So I think it's a challenge that everybody faces. So I think it just depends on like your company and situation. Oh, sure.
How do you actually hear me?
I think excellent, good. I still feel like this sounds like I'm about to negotiate a trade deal. So would it be okay if I shared what I think is one of my favorite onboarding hacks?
Yes.
So when you join a new company, it's really rough, right? You don't know who to ask questions often, and you're going to have questions even outside of the team. So setting up an email address that gets routed to somebody, be it the manager or somebody at the company. As the company gets bigger, you actually should have a team for this, just called Ask. And if you have a question, you send an email to Ask, and Ask will take care of you. And that can be anything from where do I get my healthcare documentation to can somebody order me a stack of computers because I would feel awesome if I had a stack of computers. And that way, because you only have the one address that covers everything, you never need to go hunting for where do I ask that question, because it's always just send an email to Ask. This is something that Pivotal does, and it's super awesome.
Yeah, that's a great idea. One thing that we do sometimes is, so we have a firefighter each week, and they're in charge of like bugs that come up or things that go wrong, but they're also the person that you ask questions to each week, and you always know who that person is on every single team. So if you have a question, it's never about who should I ask, like you always know this person's on duty for that week, I can ask them, and they'll at least figure out who it is I should talk to, which has been really helpful. Great. Okay, thank you.